Hi folks, welcome to your latest mwis planning outlook in association with Ellis Brigham. We've got some remarkably cold conditions for the start of May across the mountains. We'll be seeing some more snow during the week ahead, and that lying quite extensively on higher slopes, especially in Scotland. The higher mountains staying sub-zero much of the time, even onwards into the start of next week. There'll be some heavy showers, some hail and thunder mixed in at times, and just for good measure, looks like another active area of low pressure for some gales and extensive precipitation over the weekend. We'll start off with a jog through the freezing level charts, taking you through the weekend, and we'll see regular frosts again into the valleys and the glens, and many mornings we'll see terrain at least partly frozen at most elevations. We'll see some daytime lifting of freezing level as the strength of the May sunshine does get to work and lifts those temperatures somewhat, but we'll barely get above freezing point on many of our higher mountains in Scotland. For Wednesday at least, that freezing level hardly above 700 or 800 metres, maybe just nudging to around 800 metres or above for England and Wales. Another frost overnight into Thursday. We'll keep an eye on the date at the bottom of the screen and run through toward the weekend. Not a huge amount changes in this general story, perhaps just a slightly higher freezing level by Thursday and Friday afternoons, up to around 1,000 metres or perhaps just above. Over the weekend we will see a push of milder air come in across England and Wales. Now the northward extent of that is uncertain, and that will dictate at that point just where the risk of snowfall is again into the Highlands. I think for a time at least we'll be above freezing point by a few degrees for England and Wales. May well be that way into Sunday as well, but just notice across Scotland that boundary of colder air is still in place into Sunday, barely above 800 metres, and it might be lower than that if precipitation sets in. Early next week, as the wind flow swings around to the northwest once again as our area of low pressure clears eastwards, we'll see a very familiar story where the freezing level is back at times below 800 metres and lifting a bit during the daytimes. Let's take you through the synoptic charts then. This is Wednesday, and we've got a cold north-northwesterly wind in charge across the country, a polar maritime, if not even an Arctic maritime air mass that's coming through, and that's unstable. It's an air mass that produces lots of showers. Those will be pretty widespread, even from the word go, around many coastal districts and areas immediately exposed to that north-northwest wind, but they'll then break out increasingly through the daytime inland and tracking east and southeastwards with time. A few bands may just run into the borders and the Pennines, and out of mid-Wales too, running off towards the Midlands. Some parts of coastal West Wales and around the Lake District may just escape with something a bit drier through onwards into the afternoon with some sunshine. Away from showers, there'll be some cloud breaks towards some higher slopes, but that cloud will soon descend onto the hills where any clusters of showers do become quite organised. The wind not quite as strong as what we saw on Monday and Tuesday, but still a distinct chill across much of the higher terrain. Quite a complicated looking chart into Thursday, but in many ways it's a similar weather story. We've still got the airflow coming around from the north or the northwest, little areas of low pressure skirting to the south of us, not having too much influence. It might just be that some high cloud from this extends across Wales, and for Wales chances are fewer showers during the day on Thursday, but still organised clusters of showers will be around across Scotland, and those drifting increasingly into northern England too through Thursday afternoon, and may well set in for an hour or so of frequent precipitation, again some snow across the hills to modest elevations, and some hail and the risk of thunder thrown in for good measure. Not quite as windy by Friday as the isobars just open out a little bit, but it still maintains a rather chilly feel as the airflow comes around from the north-northwest. Again, there's still the scope for showers to form, initially around the coast, breaking out further inland as we go onwards through the daytime. Some of these becoming organised again into little local clusters with some heavy bursts, some hail, and the risk of rumble of thunder again. Notice towards the southwest a developing zone of low pressure, and that's the one that we're watching for sweeping in as we head into Friday night and Saturday. I think the weather does like to toy with us in terms of throwing unpleasant weather just when you don't want it. We've just had a bad bank holiday Monday, and the first day of next weekend is all set for another rather torrid day. A frontal system sweeping in, extensive precipitation, the risk of gales, if not severe gales, in places across the higher terrain. Easterly winds to the north of that across Scotland, turning southwesterly across England and Wales. Milder air comes in for a time, and even behind the so-called cold front, the air that comes into Wales behind that is not as cold as what we've seen recently, but the cold air does stay in place across the northern side of this front, so the risk of some snowfall initially across the higher tops in England and Wales, then that risk of snow more focused on Scotland, which stays in the colder air for longer through Saturday daytime. The exact position of all of these fronts will dictate just how that pattern unfolds through the day. One way or the other, by Sunday, a general zone of low pressure is likely to be parked over the country, the wraparound of various fronts still around, producing some areas of persistent snowfall across the hills, rain at lower slopes, and some heavy showers with some hail and thunder, again, pretty widely by the afternoon. Some sunshine away from the showers. If you're just in the middle of the low, the wind will be light, but around the flanks of the low, at the risk of some strong, if not even gale force gusts at times. So we end the weekend on a rather cyclonic note on the weather chart once again, as that area of low pressure is in charge. The colours on this chart representing the general temperatures of the air through a depth of the atmosphere, so we're into that chilly air mass still by this time. And as we go onwards into next week, it's likely that as low pressure just drifts away eastwards, we're still being fed by a rather chilly northwesterly flow, so back to a story of sunshine and some heavy showers with some hail and some snow on the hills once again, I suspect, early next week. Now it becomes a rather complicated picture as we go further ahead, because higher pressure to our north and also zones of high pressure way out over the Atlantic are trying to sort of manoeuvre themselves around, and low pressure starting to become cut off, as we'd call it, around central northern parts of continental Europe. We may just find that within that sort of pattern we drag some of the airflow around more from the east or the northeast with time, and that changing the distribution then of just where showers will exist. It might be that western Scotland becomes comparatively drier, and some indications onwards towards the middle of May start to build higher pressure back in a little bit more, but that's a bit on the horizon at this stage. I think the general outlook for the time being is one of being rather cool and frequently showery. Temperatures then still below the average for the early part of May. You can stay up to date with the very latest every day on our website. That's been your latest planning outlook in association with Ellis Brigham. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.